Well, hello there. This is Virtuals the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. This is the 5th video in the series where I cover some of the ideas in my new book, 50+2 Chess Quick Wins, Tactical Ideas for Exciting Chess for Beginner Players, available on Amazon. Get your copy for Christmas. So it's the 5th video covering the tactical ideas in the first section of my book. Now, this video on opening up the center files to launch an attack is a tactical idea that's a little bit more subtle than the first 4, which were quite discrete attacking ideas. Opening the center files to get a semi-opened or fully open file is often a structure of many of the other ideas in opening attacks. So in attacking chess, often you end up with semi-open or fully open files, or you may even try to engender that as part of a gambit. And what I want you to get out of this video is to potentially become a little bit sensitized to how that can be used, how that can be exploited potentially to launch an attack in the opening. Now, it might be first useful to have a look at what normally happens. So let's say a very normal opening, the Italian game, the Gioco Piano game, so the quiet game. Let's see what happens. So here we are. So I've labeled the squares in green. So in green, so these are looking at the center pawns. Let's see what happens to this in the Gioco Piano. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and what you will notice is these pawns all stay on the board. So basically it's closed. So the pieces behind those pawns remain defended by the pawns. So here we go, c3, the other knight, d3, now d6, the other knight to d2, and now castles, castles. So you'll notice these pawns all still there. And one of the purpose of the pawns, particularly in the opening, is that they're basically, put their bodies on the line effectively. They are like a fence. They defend the pieces behind their line, behind the fence effectively. And what it means is that in the opening stages of the game, the king, which is in the center of the board, can't really be directly attacked as long as it stays closed. While these pawns are there, each side sort of marshals and develops their pieces behind their line of pawns potentially, and then after castling, entering to the middle game, the king is now behind other pawns on the side, and potentially now we open up the board for the attack. But of course, this is slow. So Gioco Piano is the quiet game. In fact, this is the Gioco Pianissimo, the very quiet game. What we want, of course, is the opposite. We want an aggressive, quick wins, aggressive, loud game. So one of the ways that we can potentially achieve that is to get rid of some of these pawns in the middle. One of the things to realize when you start to, open up the center files, particularly very open, is that it can be a two-edged sword. So, once it's opened, it can be a two-way street. You can attack the opponent, but the opponent can also attack you as well. So, it is something to consider. However, the reason why it can often work very early is that if you immediately start to open up the center files, the kings are often relatively stuck in the center. So without very much development, they can't really castle off to the side. And if we've opened it, then the king often doesn't have a lot of defense. It may not be a lot that can be done once these pawns leave the board. That a lot of the defense of the king is in fact by keeping these files closed at the beginning. One of the other things is, as I mentioned, once these files are potentially opened and it becomes a very attacking game, if the opponent is trying to do an attacking game as well, then there just aren't that many moves in the opening, which means that their defenses may be quite lacking. So your defenses could be lacking, but their defenses can be lacking as well. So potentially an attack may be more successful. And thirdly, an idea to sort of think about as part of this tactical approach is that if the opponent is sort of used to playing a slower game, so again, let's say something like the Italian, they may simply not be expecting the center files to be open, or they won't understand the ramifications of that. And so by the opponent not necessarily expecting an immediate attack, or understanding how dangerous an attack is once the center files are opened at the beginning stages of the game, they're much more likely to overlook an attack and potentially make a mistake, allowing for the win. Fortune favours the bold. Now let's look at game one, where we look at it from White's perspective, just to see what happens. Now here we are. And again, I'm going to colour the center pawns green when it's closed. I'm going to colour the once one of the center files becomes semi-open, it's going to be coloured yellow, and once it becomes fully open, it's going to be coloured red. So let's have a look at this game from the perspective of White. White will play the Blackmar Dema Gambit and then the Rider Gambit. So d4, d5. And now e4, so this is the Blackmar Gambit, immediately, having attention in the center and potentially trading the center pawns right at the beginning. They accept, and now semi-open file, very, very early. This is now the Blackmar Dema Gambit, knights develop, and here again, another pawn, f3, trying to potentially pull this pawn across, or maybe going this way. This will potentially lead to a semi-open file on the E file as well. Now they capture, both center files are semi-open, only on move 4. And here we now have the queen capturing, allowing potentially the queen can take. Now, if that queen takes that pawn, think about what that means. It means that the D file becomes fully open. So, inviting a very, very early fully open D file. And this is the Rider Gambit, leaving that pawn exposed. Black captures. Now fully open D file. Now keep your focus now on that fully open D file. And let's see what happens. So White now chases that queen. Best move for Black here is actually to move the queen all the way back because they're up 2 points of material. They should just consolidate. A little bit hard to, if you feel like you've got the attack, you might want to keep your queen on the board. So Black does. Queen b4. Now long castles. The rook now controls that fully open D file. Notice king still in the center of the board is stuck in the center. They cannot castle yet. So Black now plays ostensibly a very aggressive move, attacking White's queen. That is defended, of course, by the knight. But with that very, very powerful immediate attack, White ignores the threat by playing knight to b5. Now notice the knight is actually defended by the bishop, so the queen can't straight up take there. And have a look, with the rook fully commanding the open D file, that knight potentially has a mating attack. Does Black see it? No. They wanted to take the queen. That looks like it's even, a really powerful skewer. They take the queen. However, a blunder because knight now captures c7 with check. The king is stuck in its position, jammed against that fully open D file controlled by White's rook and its mate. Unexpected mate. Good game, GG. Now let's look at another game, similar ideas from Black's perspective. And this one will be out of the England gambit and then the Charlock gambit. So again, green for when it's still closed, yellow when the file is semi-open, red fully open file. All right, so another 1d4, and black immediately e5. England gambit, trying to open things up. White accepts, semi-open d-file. And now we've got the Charlock gambit with the immediate d6. Potentially, if they capture, then we've got 2 semi-open files. Now white here decides not to take, decides to develop the knight instead. Knight as well, bishop, and now just another pawn. And here, black decides they're just going to take. Captures, fully open d-file, queens look at each other, queen captures queen, rook captures queen, end of the trade, fully open d-file, rook controls a d-file just like the other game, however, from the perspective of black. Again, king potentially jammed and trapped against that controlled, fully open d-file. Very little potential defense yet, very early stages of the game. It's move 6. The king is not able to move out of there with a castle at this point. And now here, white makes a blunderous move by capturing with their knight. And can you see that pattern? That's controlled. That bishop now controls all the escape squares for the king. So that was a blunder. The rook now advances to a d1 and the king is trapped. Opening the center file with the attack. Good game, GG, on move 7. Now, the sort of opening up the center files is, as I said, often a structure, a consequence of many sort of opening gambits. Opening up the center files occurs in a number of fairly non-gambit openings. Think about the Scotch game, think about the Scandinavian game. So sometimes these patterns can exist out of those openings, particularly when the opponent doesn't play accurately. So very useful to keep some of these ideas in mind as you play. I'm going to show a recent game that I just played, where this occurred as well. Wasn't quite a quick win, so we've sort of the checkmate occurred a little bit later. Well, a winning attack occurred a little bit later, around sort of move 16, move 17 or so, but using some of these ideas. Look for that video, probably will be published either later today or tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.